Hey, Scott Sambucci here. Just want to give you a little insight, I guess, into some of the conversations that I have with folks when we're talking about selling their product. And one of the things that I hear a lot of times is that, hey, as a startup, I'm not really ready to start selling my product because my product isn't done yet. And so I hear this a lot of times, and I'm not really sure where that fear comes from. I don't know if it's that folks don't want to be embarrassed or hear no. I mean, I think a lot of it is that they just don't want to hear no. And so what I did is I did a little bit of research and I went through some pretty important famous people that have talked about selling very early and getting their company started even before the product or the company was built. So the first one is from Reid Hoffman, who founded LinkedIn and is obviously one of the Silicon Valley giants out there. And he said, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. So that one's pretty clear. Like getting out there and in a very lean startup sort of way, getting out there and building a minimally viable product. And the same goes with selling. Like getting out there and seeing what people are willing to buy is the first most important step to establishing that sales process with your company. So the second one is from Steve Blank, speaking of lean startup. And he said startups don't fail because they lack a product. They fail because they lack customers and a profitable business model. So I love this quote from Steve because it clearly, as a product person himself, I mean, he's looking at this and saying, look, it's not about, how good is the product, as we know. It's, how do you find customers and how do you get them to pay you money? One of the things that he talks about in his, in a lot of his classes and a lot of the people that he works with is getting out there and seeing how quickly you can add value to customers. And so same goes with building that first product and getting out there and selling. You have to figure out what is connecting with people. What is the value propositions that you're proposing to those customers that make them feel like, hey, yes, okay, this person gets my problem. There's a couple of other different types of examples. These are much larger companies, and I found these because I thought they were interesting in terms of how they started. So this was from Oracle, which it says in 1977, Larry Ellison, and two of his colleagues founded software development labs and soon had a contract to build a database management system, which they called Oracle, for the CIA. So what was interesting about this is that they, right now, obviously, we think of Oracle as one of the software mainstays in the world, and their first project was to go and build something. They didn't have Oracle. They didn't have this big database management system. They just went and got a contract and then went and built their first product, or at least this product for the CIA. So good example of going out and assessing customer needs first, going out there and selling, getting the contract, and then figuring out what the product might be. There's two other ones I just want to share really quickly. One is Southwest Airlines, which is an airline we probably have all flown at least once this year. It says Southwest was incorporated in Texas and commenced customer service on June 18, 1971 with 3 Boeing 737 aircraft serving 3 Texas cities, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. So that was it. That was Southwest Airlines in the beginning, this little triangle in Texas, and between those 3 cities, and they were finding ways to get a product up and running and going and seeing if people were interested in a low-cost airline between these cities, and really kind of figuring out if there was a real business here. And from there, now obviously they've grown to many cities across the country, and they are sort of like sometimes the first place you go to check airlines because the prices are good, what service you're going to get. And then the last one that I wanted to share is eBay. So eBay started, and I didn't know this until very recently. I found an article that was talking about the start of eBay. And the very first product that was sold on eBay was a laser pointer. And not only just a laser pointer, a broken laser pointer. So the founder of eBay had this idea of like, hey, could I sell, create an exchange type of market, where I could post products for people to buy it. And the one thing he had to sell was a broken laser pointer. And he sold it for $14. And then he contacted the person who bought it and said, hey, why did you buy this broken laser pointer for $14? Well, it turns out that person collected broken laser pointers, proving, of course, there's a market for anything. And this is before eBay was even called eBay. At the time, it was called Auction Web. That was the original name of the company. eBay was called Auction Web. So they started with a single laser pointer, broken laser pointer, as the first way of assessing and really selling the idea and assessing whether or not this was a viable business model. So I just encourage you as a startup founder this early stage company, if you're sitting there and thinking like, hey, I definitely feel like I need to be selling because I need customers, I need revenue, and I can't get more funding until I show that I've got a business model here, then start today. Start with whatever product you have today, even if you don't even have a product. Go out there and start selling on ideas. Do your customer development. Use that as a starting point to the sales process. Find people that you think have a specific problem, and then talk with those people about how they're solving that problem, and then propose solutions to them, which may or may not be in line with your product. You just want to see that you're sure that this problem exists and that you're finding the right people to help solve that problem for. So that's it. Those are my little tidbits of information this morning as to one of the reasons why I'm finding that people aren't out there selling their product, and that's because they feel like the product isn't done. So remember, your product will never be finished. It will never be done. You're always going to have iterations. And so where you are today is not where you plan to be in the future. Where you are today is where you are. So work with what you have. Go out there and make sure that you've got the problem in mind to solve. Start finding those people, figuring out why they're buying. And then from there, you can start building and building and building. Don't wait until tomorrow. Do a sales call today. Do 5 sales calls today. Do whatever you can to start that sales process now. So that's it. Hope this was helpful.